Welcome, everyone, to the Center for Women Entrepreneurs. My name is Tracy Irby, and I am the director here. And I am so excited. We have a guest with us today that is going to teach us about a different kind of business entity, a co-op. So I am pleased to turn it over to Katie Novak. Thank you, Katie, for being here.
Sure thing. Thank you, Tracy. It's a pleasure to be here. I'm excited to talk to you all today about what a co-op is. But first, a little bit about myself. I have a varied history. I started my professional career at State Farm Insurance. I moved from there into the nonprofit world and eventually found my way to the co-op world. And a co-op is just a short way to say cooperative, which is the kind of business entity that we're going to be talking about today. I have had the pleasure of working in the co-op world for about 14 years now. And when I found the cooperative world, I knew I had found my home. To me, it's a bridge or kind of a combination of a for-profit business and a nonprofit that focuses on putting people ahead of profit. So we are going to sorry, my phone just went off. Wanted to turn that off there quick. We are going to talk about what a co-op is and then some resources that we have available for you. So first of all, what is a co-op? Let me start by saying that it's a form of business. Just like a corporation or a partnership or an LLC, it is a form of business. The difference is behind the scenes. And co-ops are built on shared value that meets a specific need. So I like to think about electric co-ops as an example to explain a little more, give a little context to what a co-op is. So once upon a time in the United States, electricity wasn't everywhere, especially in rural parts of the country, including Texas. And the folks who lived in those areas came together and said, hey, we want electricity in our community. We want to have the same services that people in cities have in terms of electrical service. And so they pooled together, they formed cooperatives, and they brought electricity across the country. Rural cooperative electrical organizations still exist. In fact, one of my house is on a co-op, electric co-op. And it's a business, just like any other kind of business, but it's owned by the people who use it. So as a member of the co-op, as a household who uses the co-op, I have a share of ownership in that business. And it is based, as I said, on shared ownership. It's all of us in this geographic area pooling our resources, paying our membership to own the co-op so that we get the services of the electricity. And it operates according to a set of principles, a co-op does. As cooperators, we abide by 7 principles. And I have them memorized, but I'm going to look at my notes because I don't want to forget any. The first one is member economic participation. That means that as users of the co-op, so at my house, as an electric customer, I am a member and I participate as a voluntary member. I have the choice to choose the co-op. And so that is the first principle, voluntary and open membership. The second is democratic control. As a member of that electric co-op, I get a notification when the annual meeting is, and I get to vote for the board, and I have a say in what happens at the co-op. Member economic participation is the third principle, and that means that as members of the co-op, we participate financially. We become members of the co-op and we pay our bill. We participate in the commerce that happens at the co-op. The fourth cooperative principle is autonomy and independence. That means every co-op is different. Every electric co-op is different. Every grocery co-op is different. Every kind of co-op that exists is very unique and focused on that community because these are businesses that are created to share, to meet a shared need. So they're very unique to those communities. Education and training is another cooperative principle. In the cooperative world, we focus pretty significantly on developing our co-op members and our board members, making sure that they're educated and have opportunities to learn more about the business and learn more about participation. Cooperation among cooperative is my favorite cooperative principle because it allows us as cooperators to help each other build more co-ops. One of the reasons why I'm here today to talk to you is because I'm very passionate about growing the cooperative business world. And this is one of the principles that I find most surprising as someone from the business world and rewarding. And it's that co-ops helping co-ops. I like to equate this to like the grocery co-op world where I spend a lot of my time and energy. People at HEB do not call the people at Kroger and say, hey, how did you do this? Or how do we do that? But in the cooperative world, one grocery co-op will call another grocery co-op, and those co-ops will help each other because one of our focuses is cooperating among cooperators and building this cooperative ecosystem. The final cooperative principle is concern for community. Because these businesses are rooted out of a community need, it's very important for us to take care of that community. So in grocery co-ops, for example, you'll see that grocery co-ops typically donate more to the local community. They participate a lot more in a local community than a for-profit, a typical conventional grocery will. In addition to the cooperative principles, we are operating a business that is value-based. As I said, it's designed to meet a shared need. And I borrowed this principle 6, which is what we call that cooperatives, helping cooperatives, this image from the Montana Cooperative Development Center. They put some great content together. And I really like this image because it kind of articulates what happens and how a co-op comes to exist and why it's the right fit in some instances for a business. These are organizations that are rooted in community. So it's community focused. This isn't some outside entity coming in and opening a grocery store in our community or opening an electric co-op or whatever the business might be. It's us saying, hey, we need this business. We want this in our community. Because we're focused on community need, we can serve our specific community. So just because a grocery store might come to our area, it doesn't mean that it's going to be the right grocery store for our community. For example, you can't necessarily bring a Whole Foods into a low-income area. Those things don't match, and those customers aren't looking for the kinds of products that are available at those stores. But in a co-op grocery, we can create a store that meets the needs of the community that we're opening in. And because we're community focused, we're adaptive and resilient. We can fluctuate and change with our community needs and alter our business to meet those needs. We aren't beholden by shareholders and decision makers outside of our community. We are the decision makers and the shareholders. And cooperatives are also built for long-term impact. These aren't fly-by-night kinds of businesses that come. These are rooted community organizations that serve communities for generations. Electric co-ops are an excellent example. These electric co-ops started decades ago, and they still exist. They still serve that need. And they are strengthened by that community ownership. Because me as a homeowner, because I have a share in this electric co-op, I have much more stake in what happens at the co-op. I pay more attention. I know who to contact there. I have a vote in the board of directors, and I pay attention to what happens there. And that strengthens the organization as a whole when you have community members participating. In addition to the principles that we talked about, co-ops share some values. And there's a place in Spain called Mondragon, Spain. It's kind of the mecca for co-ops. Their economy, the formatting isn't quite right on that slide. I should have fixed that co-op values. But the Mondragon, Spain, that area of Spain is economically driven by co-ops. I think 70% of the businesses in that part of the country of Spain are cooperatives. Other business entities exist, like that we're used to more here in the United States, but most of them are community-owned businesses. In the 1950s, all of those cooperatives got together and identified the values that ground our work. And those values are self-help, self-responsibility, democracy, equality, equity, and solidarity. And those influence our cooperative principles. So you can tell by both the principles and the values of a co-op that co-ops are very people focused. These are business entities that prioritize people over profit, which is one of the reasons why they're so attractive, I guess is the word, valuable to me, is because they take into consideration so much more than profitability when running a business. And that to me, like I said at the beginning, is where we see this intersection of business and nonprofit. Now, a co-op is a for-profit entity. If we don't make money, we can't stay in business. So it is not a nonprofit. I want to be clear about that. But we take the values that we see in the nonprofit world and we line them up with the business concepts that we know can marry to make an operational organization that can be successful and meet the needs of their community. So there are lots of types of co-ops. There are consumer co-ops, there are purchasing co-ops, housing co-ops, you name it, there's a kind of co-op. There are daycare co-ops and driving co-ops, all kinds. But I want to talk about these specific types of co-ops just briefly. Purchasing co-ops are people who pool their resources to be able to get better buying power. An example of a purchasing co-op is Ace Hardware. If you've ever shopped at an Ace Hardware, all of the franchise owners of Ace Hardware are part of a purchasing co-op. So they can buy in volume and get better rates on products so that they can in turn pass that savings on to their customers. It gives them leverage in the competitive world with other big box stores. Housing co-ops are housing facilities. Sometimes they're large scale apartment buildings. New York City has a lot of housing co-ops. Austin, Texas has some housing co-ops. Sometimes they're small houses with 4 or 5 units. Sometimes they are mobile home parks where the mobile home owners pool together and run the park operationally. Credit unions, which we're all very familiar with, are a form of co-op. They are a consumer co-op. It's all of us pooling our money as individuals to serve the community's financial needs. And there are also worker-owned co-ops. Those are the people who run the business, owning and benefiting from the operation of the business. And then the last one are marketing co-ops. Similar kinds of businesses will pool together to advertise or market similar products. And those are more prevalent in a rural kind of farming situations. But let's look at a couple examples. We talked about the fact that credit unions are examples of a consumer co-op. So the Texas Credit Union is a co-op. Blue Diamond Almonds is a farmer co-op, a producer co-op. So these are the people growing the almonds that pool together to create this company so that they can market their products. And we probably see those almonds on the shelf of the grocery store where we shop at. REI is a pretty prevalent consumer co-op that sells outdoor goods. You've probably seen an REI store in a community near you. Those stores are cooperatively owned. I'm a member of one and I get a vote in their annual meeting and benefit when the store does well. And then Ace Hardware, which we talked about already as an example of a purchasing co-op. Those franchise owners band together so that they can leverage their purchasing power. So as a co-op owner, if you were to start a co-op yourself, what would you as an owner do? What does it entail? Sometimes we have this preconceived notion in our mind that as a co-op owner, there's a lot of responsibility. This is, a volunteer kind of, I got to show up every week. I got to do something. But really, it boils down to 3 things. You need to invest financially, as we talked about that economic participation. purchasing your shares in the co-op. And purchasing shares in a co-op is very different. Every co-op sets their own buy-in and their own investment level, but it ranges depending on, the kind of organization you are, from $50 upwards. But these are one-time fees. This isn't like joining a Sam's Club or a Costco. This isn't an annual cost. This is typically a one-time buy-in, and you are an owner of the organization. And that organization then gives you decision-making power. We like to talk about this as one member, one vote. So as a co-op owner, I get one vote, which means that there's no shareholder who has majority. There's not someone that owns 50% or 60% of the stock in the company who is going to make decisions on our behalf. It is me and my one vote with all the other co-op owners, and we collectively make the decisions and elect the board who operate the business. And then, of course, participating in the business. At the electric co-op, of course, I have to buy my electricity from the co-op. That's part of the agreement I made with them. And in a grocery co-op or a consumer co-op, you would shop at the store. You would frequent and make purchase through that organization. So the preconceived notion that a co-op owner is a huge responsibility is almost a myth. There is responsibility, of course, in becoming a co-op member, but there's responsibility in any kind of membership that we have. But your responsibility really is that investment and then the decision-making and participation in the co-op itself. So let's talk a little bit about why. Why would someone want to be a co-op member? Why would you want a co-op in your community? One of the reasons is to keep dollars local. So when an outside entity comes into the community to open a grocery store, for example, profits from that grocery store are siphoned out. They're sent to stockholders. They pay multiple levels of management and CEOs in faraway places. But when we open a co-op and we operate a co-op in our community, we equitably share in the surplus of what that business makes. And we call that patronage. So in a consumer co-op, the more I shop at the consumer co-op, the greater my patronage dividend can be. So for example, I like to use the person who shops at the co-op once a week, who goes to the grocery store and buys their weekly groceries there. They're going to have a much higher patronage return than someone who shops there once a month, for example, of course, depending on their size of their cart and how much they buy. But generally speaking, someone who shops more at the co-op, spends more money at the co-op, is going to benefit more from the co-op. And it keeps those dollars local. It keeps them within our community, not siphoned out to outside investors. The one member, one vote is another benefit to participating in a co-op, to starting a co-op and becoming a member, owner of a co-op. And I like to use that same example I talked about before, where no one at Kroger or HEB asks me what I think about how the grocery store is run. I don't get a say in what products they carry or what kind of product, even if they sell organic things or if they sell local food or if they sell things I don't think should be sold in a grocery store. I don't have a say. They don't ask me. My only voting power at HEB or Kroger is my dollar. But in a co-op, you have an actual vote. You have an opinion, you can participate in how the store is ran, and that responsibility is shared between all of us. As I mentioned before, not one individual has control or authority to make unilateral decisions. We do those democratically. So when we're starting a co-op, this is a roadmap of what it might look like. If you decide that there's a problem in your community and you think a co-op is the right entity to help solve that problem, when you're starting a co-op, it might look something like this. Your first step is going to be to identify the problem that you're going to solve. In my world, in the co-op world that I'm most familiar with, is the grocery co-op world. So you might decide, hey, there's a part of our town that doesn't have a grocery store, and we really need a grocery store there. And so you identify this need and you pull together a steering committee. You talk to other people in your community and you say, hey, don't you think we need a grocery store in our neighborhood here? Every other neighborhood in our community has a grocery store, but we don't have one. There's a bit of a food desert in this community. And so you pull that committee together and you start talking about your options. You might look at for-profit grocery stores. Maybe you call headquarters of some grocery stores in that have serviced other areas to see, hey, are you looking at this neighborhood? Are you considering moving to this neighborhood? And you'll stumble upon the cooperative business model and think, hey, we could do this ourselves. We could pool our resources and our knowledge, and we can come up with a business model that works for our community and serves our need. Once you have that established, you're going to start to form your vision and your mission. What kind of store do you want this to be? Who do you want to be shopping there? What do you want your focus to be? And once you know that, then you roll into this feasibility stage of development. So you start thinking about, can this be viable? Does the market support a business of this nature? Do the financials look profitable? Can we make this work on the tight margins of the grocery world? And how much money is it going to cost to open this business? And then once we do that, we'll begin to formulate our bylaws and our formation documents, just like you would in an LLC or a corporation of some sort. We would work with an attorney to draft up the bylaws and our formation documents so that we can start our business and start asking people to join as co-op owners. And then from that point forward, we're managing operations. We're going to, grow our ownership base, pool capital, open the business, and hopefully reap the rewards of that business collectively when it is successful. There are some building blocks to success that I want to point out in cooperative development. The first one is that you need members. You need people in your community who are interested in this process, who think that there's a problem to solve and that a co-op is the way to do it, and they're willing to become members. It takes people. This is a people-powered, people-focused kind of business. Those people that you get to participate need to really clearly understand what a co-op is and how they participate. So how they become an owner, how they vote, they really have to understand it and grasp it to be able to be successful. And the third piece of the puzzle is that you have to have a sustainable business model. We like to use the phrase no margin, no mission in the co-op world, because if we're not making any money, there's no reason for us to exist. And our existence is predicated on solving a problem. So we not only have to solve the problem, we have to do so in a way that is sustainable. And as I mentioned before, we are not profit driven. So we only have to pay our expenses, and whatever surplus is left over, we will share with our members. But we do have to make it sustainable. It does have to be a viable business. We also need that financial literacy for the folks involved. So as I talked about early on, that education is the key principle of co-ops. Community members, like if I pooled, the neighbors in my neighborhood and I said, hey, I want to start a business. Maybe some of them have never run a business. Maybe they don't have the financial literacy or the expertise needed to participate. And so we help those members grow that literacy and understand how to run a business and operate a business and gain that financial literacy so we can be successful. And then it's important that we get the ongoing support we need. When we're forming a co-op, we are community members coming to the table. So if Tracy and I decided to start a co-op, she's going to have some skills, I'm going to have some skills, but between the two of us, I don't think we have the legal skills we need. So we're going to have to outsource that. We're going to have to find an attorney who can help us draft our bylaws. Probably going to need an accountant. I'm not the accounting member of our team, Tracy, if we're making this fictional team, but we're going to need other support. And that's the final piece of the puzzle that I want to share with you today, is that there is support available for this kind of business model. Even though it's unique and not a lot of us are familiar with it, there are resources available. And that's through the Texas Rural Cooperative Center. They do all kinds of things to help the cooperative ecosystem grow. They can help you with business planning. They can help with facilitation skills. They have lots of knowledge and training available for you. They can provide you leaders, mentoring leaders, and they can get you connected with other cooperative experts in the community. So I want to make sure that you understand that you don't have to do this all by yourself. Co-ops are people-centered. There's a community of us who are willing and able to support this kind of work. And it really is impactful and important work. So in addition to the cooperative center, I want to point out some other key resources. And there's some contact information here for Annalise, who runs that cooperative center. My contact information is also here at the bottom. You can always reach out to me if you have questions about starting a cooperative, but there's tons of other resources. If you're in the Austin area, the Austin Cooperative Business Association is a great option. The Food Co-op Initiative specifically supports grocery co-ops. I'm very active with that organization, and Start.coop is a great starting point for people who are thinking, hey, a co-op might be the right business for me, my right business model for me. And the Start.coop team has lots of resources available there. So I'll stop talking now. It's been a pleasure to talk with you a little bit more about co-ops, and I'm always happy to talk more. So feel free to take note of my email address there and reach out.
Katie, thank you so much. That was such great information. I had put some questions down, but then you answered all of them. So,
Oh, yay.
how do I find out more? Who can help me?
Awesome. Good
How does
deal.
this work? So that was a great job. Thank you so much for being on. And I know this is something that a lot of entrepreneurs will get value from and may not even know that it existed. So thank
Right.
you.
You're welcome. Thank